September 15, 1944. Dawn breaks cold and grey over the docks of Liverpool, England. The air hangs heavy with the tang of salt and diesel, the relentless crash of waves against rusted hulls echoing like distant artillery. Hans Müller, a 28-year-old Unteroffizier from the Ruhr Valley, leans on his crutch, his right leg a phantom ache below the knee, lost to a British shell in Normandy just months ago. His uniform, patched and faded, clings to his frame, soaked from the drizzling rain that slicks the wooden planks underfoot. Around him, clusters of fellow Wehrmacht soldiers huddle in silence, their breaths fogging the air, eyes darting toward the massive troopship looming like a steel behemoth. Guards in khaki uniforms bark orders in clipped English, herding them forward with rifles slung casually over shoulders, not pointed, not yet. You can almost feel the knot in Hans's stomach, the one that's been twisting since his capture in a muddy foxhole near Caen. Propaganda films back home had drilled it in. Allied captivity meant starvation, beatings, endless labor in frozen wastelands. The Canadians, savages, his platoon sergeant had sneered. They'll work you till you drop, then bury you in the snow. Fritz, the wiry 19-year-old beside him, mutters under his breath, his face pale and defiant. Better to jump now, into the sea. On or over that hell. But Hans says nothing, his grip tightening on the crutch as they shuffle up the gangplank, the ship's horn blaring a low, mournful wail that vibrates through his bones. Below deck, the hold is a dim labyrinth of bunks stacked like coffins, the air thick with the stench of unwashed bodies and bilge water. Hans claims a lower berth, collapsing onto the thin mattress as the engines rumble to life, propelling them into the churning Atlantic. Whispers ripple through the shadows, rumors of U-boat attacks, of ships vanishing in the night. Ernst Zimmermann, a sturdy farmer from Bavaria with calloused hands and a rosary hidden in his pocket, sits across from Hans, his eyes wide. They say Canada's a land of ice and barbarians. No mercy for the likes of us. The guards distribute rations, hard biscuits, tinned meat, even a mug of hot tea. Hans sips it warily, the warmth seeping into his chilled fingers. Is this a ploy? Fatten them up for worse to come. Days blur into a monotonous haze of rolling seas and guarded monotony. The ship pitches violently in storms, men retching into buckets, clutching rails to steady themselves. Hans spends hours staring at the porthole, watching endless grey waves, his mind replaying the chaos of Normandy, the whine of incoming shells, the acrid smoke of burning tanks, the screams of the wounded. He was a machine gunner in the 12th SS Panzer Division, hardened by years on the Eastern Front, but capture had stripped him bare. No more Führer directives, no more iron discipline. Just uncertainty. One night, as the ship creaks through calmer waters, a Canadian guard, a burly sergeant with a Quebec accent, pauses by Hans's bunk. "You fellas all right? Need anything?" Hans freezes, expecting a trap. But the man just nods and moves on, leaving behind a pack of cigarettes. Fritz snorts. "They're softening us. Wait till we land." Whispers spread like wildfire. Some prisoners, veterans of Afrika Korps defeats, recall British interrogations, polite but probing. Others, like young U-boat survivor Wilhelm Rahn, captured off Corsica, share tales of initial harshness in Allied holding pens. But Canada, a mystery. Ernst pulls out his rosary in the dim light, murmuring prayers for his wife back in the Soviet-occupied zone. If we survive the crossing, what then? Labor camps? Worse. Hans nods, his crutch propped against the wall, the ship's hum a constant reminder of their helplessness. Yet, amid the fear, a strange calm settles. No beatings, no starvation, just the endless ocean, carrying them toward an unknown shore. As the days stretch, bonds form in the confined space. Men trade stories over shared smokes, battles in the desert, winters in Russia, the home front crumbling under bombs. Hans speaks of his factory days before the war, the Ruhr smokestacks belching fire. Fritz, barely out of Hitler Youth, boasts of his marksmanship, but his voice cracks with homesickness. The guards intervene rarely, offering medical checks for the wounded like Hans, bandaging sores with unexpected care. Why? Hans wonders aloud one evening. Ernst shrugs. Maybe they're not the monsters we were told. But doubt lingers, a shadow in every kind gesture. Finally, after 2 weeks of turbulent voyage, the ship approaches the Canadian coast. Foghorns pierce the mist, and land emerges, rugged cliffs, endless forests blanketed in early autumn frost. Hans stands on deck, crutch under arm, as Halifax harbor comes into view. Armed escorts wait on the pier, but no snarling dogs, no chains. The prisoners disembark in orderly lines, herded onto trains rumbling northward. Through grimy windows, Hans glimpses vast landscapes, rolling hills giving way to dense pines, lakes shimmering like mirrors. This is no wasteland, he thinks, a flicker of confusion stirring. The train clatters on, deeper into the unknown, toward camps whispered to be in places like Medicine Hat or Petawawa. What awaits? Brutality, as promised, or something that could shatter everything they believed. But as the train pulls into a remote station, under a sky heavy with impending snow, Hans catches sight of the camp gates, barbed wire, yes, but beyond it, structures that look almost livable. And then, a guard's voice breaks the tension. Welcome to Canada, boys. No need to worry, hot showers waiting. Hans's heart skips. Is this real, or the beginning of a cruel joke? The train brakes hiss to a stop with a long metallic sigh. Snow dusts the platform like powdered sugar, catching the weak November sunlight. Hans Muller steps down first, crutch sinking slightly into the thin crust of ice. The cold bites through his thin greatcoat, but it is a clean cold, sharp, not the rotting damp of European trenches. A line of Canadian soldiers stands at ease along the fence, greatcoats buttoned to the chin, breath steaming in white plumes, rifles slung low. No bayonets fixed, no shouting. One of them, a corporal with frost-rimmed eyebrows, actually raises a gloved hand in casual salute as the first rank of prisoners shuffles forward. Move along, gentlemen. Barracks 4 through 8 for you lot today. Hans exchanges a glance with Fritz. The boy's mouth hangs open. Barracks. Not tents. Not dugouts. Real buildings with slanted roofs and chimneys trailing thin smoke. The gates, double strands of barbed wire, yes, but wide enough for trucks, and flanked by wooden guard towers that look more like hunting blinds than machine gun nests. A sign in neat black lettering reads, Prisoner of War Camp No. 132 Medicine Hat, Alberta. They are marched, not driven, down a gravel path bordered by young spruce trees. The crunch of boots on snow is the only sound for a long minute. Then Hans notices the smells: wood smoke, baking bread, pine resin. Not the familiar reek of cordite and latrines. A low murmur ripples through the column. Ernst Zimmermann, walking just behind, whispers, they feed dogs better than this back home now. Inside the wire, the compound opens into orderly rows of two-story wooden barracks painted olive drab. Windows glow with electric light even in daylight. Laundry lines stretch between buildings, white undershirts snapping in the breeze like signal flags. A baseball diamond, yes, a proper diamond, with bleached bases and a backstop of chain link, sits empty under fresh snow. Beyond it, a hockey rink has already been cleared, boards gleaming wetly. A Canadian lieutenant, tall and bespectacled, steps onto a low platform. His voice carries easily in the still air. Gentlemen, I am Lieutenant Fraser, Camp Adjutant. You are now under the protection of the Canadian Army and the Geneva Convention. You will be housed, fed, and medically cared for to the standard we provide our own troops. Work is voluntary except for camp maintenance. Escape attempts will be dealt with firmly, but we would rather you didn't try. Most of you will be here until the war ends. Make it bearable for yourselves. He pauses, scanning the silent ranks. First order of business, delousing and showers. Hot water, soap, clean clothes. You stink of the Atlantic. Move. A ripple of disbelieving laughter escapes several throats before men catch themselves. Hans feels the same insane urge. Hot water. The phrase echoes in his skull like a foreign language. They are divided into groups of 50 and led into a long, low building that smells of carbolic soap and steam. Inside, wooden benches line the walls. A corporal hands each man a towel, a bar of yellow soap the size of a brick, and a bundle of clean underwear, socks, and a blue denim work shirt stamped with a large red circle on the back, POW, in white block letters. Strip. Everything goes in the bins. You'll get your uniforms back after fumigation. Hans hesitates only a moment. The prosthetic leg he was issued in England clunks awkwardly as he undresses. No one stares. No one laughs. A medical orderly notices the stump, nods professionally, and points toward a side door. Prosthetic workshops that way tomorrow, Fritz. We'll get you fitted properly. The shower room is tiled, white, impossibly bright under bare bulbs. 20 shower heads in a row. Hans turns the knob. Water, scalding at first, then perfect, cascades over his shoulders. He stands motionless for a full minute, letting it hammer his skin, watching weeks of grime spiral down the drain. Steam clouds the air. Someone begins to sing, very softly, an old Rhineland folk tune. Others join. The sound swells, hesitant, then stronger. Hans closes his eyes. For the first time since Normandy he does not feel like prey. When they emerge, pink and dazed, fresh clothing waits on long tables. The denim is stiff but clean, the socks thick wool. A mess corporal appears with trays of sandwiches, real bread, ham, cheese, mustard, and tin mugs of coffee with actual milk. Not ersatz. Real coffee. Fritz takes one bite, chews slowly, then looks at Hans with wide eyes. This is impossible. Ernst Zimmermann, sitting cross-legged on the floor because there are not enough benches, cradles his mug like a holy relic. They are trying to convert us, he says quietly. With bread and hot water. Hans says nothing. He is too busy tasting the coffee, bitter, hot, perfect. That evening they are assigned bunks in Barracks 7. Double-tiered, mattresses stuffed with straw but thick enough, wool blankets, even small reading lamps clipped to the bed frames. A library cart rolls through before lights out. German books, English novels, technical journals, even a few volumes of poetry. Hans takes a worn copy of Remarks All Quiet on the Western Front. He has read it before, in secret. Now it sits openly on his blanket. Outside, the temperature drops to -15°C. Wind rattles the windows, yet inside the barracks the coal stove glows cherry red, and men strip down to shirt sleeves. Someone produces a battered accordion. A tentative polka begins. Laughter, real laughter, follows. Hans lies on his bunk, prosthetic leg propped beside him, listening to the music and the low murmur of voices trading stories. Across the aisle, Fritz is teaching a young paratrooper how to shuffle a deck of cards the camp issue away, 52 pristine bicycle decks, still in their cellophane. Hans stares at the ceiling beams. They told us we would be treated like animals. Instead they gave us hot showers, and baseball fields. What kind of captors do that? He turns onto his side, the unfamiliar softness of the mattress pressing against his ribs. Tomorrow, he thinks, they will probably explain the catch. But as sleep pulls him under, the last sound he registers is not wind or wire, but the soft crack of a bat connecting with a ball somewhere far across the compound. Practice swings in the dark, someone already dreaming of spring. Winter settles over Medicine Hat like a heavy wool blanket, temperatures plunging to -30 at night, the kind of cold that makes metal brittle and breath freeze into tiny crystals on eyelashes. Yet inside Barracks 7 the stove never goes cold. Coal arrives in truckloads twice a week, stacked neatly beside each building. Hans wakes most mornings to the soft scrape of shovels outside, prisoners on voluntary fatigue duty clearing paths between barracks and the mess hall. No whips, no overseers cracking heels, just men in blue denim jackets with the big red POW circle on the back, working at their own pace, steam rising from their shoulders like smoke from quiet campfires. By mid-December the routine has hardened into something almost comforting. Réveil at 07:00. Breakfast in the mess hall. Oatmeal with brown sugar, scrambled eggs real ones, not powdered thick slices of bacon, coffee that never runs out. Hans, still limping slightly on the new, better fitted prosthetic the camp carpenter helped adjust, finds himself queuing without resentment. The food is the same quality the guards eat. He has seen it with his own eyes, Canadian sergeants carrying the same aluminum trays, joking in French and English about hockey scores. Classes begin after breakfast, not forced indoctrination lectures, but choices. A former schoolteacher from Hamburg, now prisoner 4782, runs rudimentary English lessons in Barracks 3. Hans attends 3 mornings a week. The teacher uses a cracked blackboard and sticks of chalk, teaching verbs and slang with patient humor. You say, "I am hungry." Not, "I have hunger." The Canadians will laugh at you otherwise. Laughter follows, genuine, unguarded. Fritz, who once swore he would die before speaking the enemy tongue, now sits in the front row, repeating phrases under his breath. Afternoons are for sport or work. The baseball diamond, cleared of snow, becomes an ice rink. Skates, hundreds of pairs, are issued from a storeroom that looks like a small department store. Hockey sticks, pucks, even goalie pads. A league forms almost overnight. Luftwaffe, against, Panzer, Afrika Korps veterans, against, new boys from Normandy. Hans watches from the boards, crutch under one arm, fascinated by the speed and violence of the game. Men who months earlier were killing each other now shout encouragement, slam into each other, pick each other up. When a young Fallschirmjäger takes a puck to the face and blood spatters the ice, 2 Canadian medics appear within seconds, stitching him up on the spot with the calm efficiency of men who have done this before. Hans tries the ice once. A corporal named McTavish, broad-shouldered, red-haired, from Winnipeg, laces skates onto Hans's good foot and steadies him while he finds balance on the prosthesis. Easy does it, Fritz. Bend the knees. Like you're riding a bicycle downhill. Hans falls 3 times in as many minutes. Each time McTavish hauls him up without mockery, only a grin. You'll get it. Takes time. No one calls him Fritz with contempt anymore. It has become a camp nickname for all of them, said with the same wry affection the guards use among themselves. Evenings bring the strangest moments. The camp theater, yes, a theater, converted from an empty storage building, puts on plays. Prisoners direct, act, build sets from scrap lumber. In January they stage a German-language version of a light comedy about a bumbling postman. The guards sit in the back rows, chuckling politely. Afterward, coffee and cookies are served. Real cookies. Chocolate chips. Hans takes one, bites, closes his eyes. The taste drags memories of his mother's kitchen in 1938, before rationing, before everything. Letters arrive, not censored to ribbons, but opened and read, then handed over intact. Hans receives 3 in 1 week from his sister in Cologne. The paper smells faintly of her perfume. She writes that the house still stands, that the children ask about Uncle Hans. No propaganda slips inside, no threats, just family news. The library grows. Books in German, English, even French. Technical manuals on agriculture, engineering, architecture. Many men, realizing the Reich is collapsing, begin to study trades. Ernst Zimmermann spends hours with a book on Canadian wheat farming, murmuring, "If I go home, the land will be different. Maybe I learned something useful here." Suspicion lingers, but it frays. Small conversations turn into long talks over coffee in the mess hall. A guard named Private Levesque, barely 20, shares cigarettes and stories of his childhood in Gaspé. Hans listens, then, hesitantly, tells of growing up in the Ruhr, the coal dust that never quite washed out. Levesque nods. Sounds like Sudbury. Nickel mines. Same black lungs. No lectures on democracy. No gloating over victories. Just 2 men, not so different, talking in halting sentences. One night in late February, after lights out, Hans lies awake listening to the wind howl against the barracks. Fritz whispers from the bunk above. "Hans, you think the war's really ending?" Hans stares into the dark. "It must be, otherwise why treat us like this?" A long silence. "Then what happens to us?" Hans has no answer, but the question has changed. It is no longer, "Will they kill us?" It is, "What will we do when the gates open?" Outside, someone starts a small fire in a steel drum near the hockey rink. Shadows move, voices murmur. A harmonica plays, Lily Marlene, slow, mournful, but not defeated. Hans closes his eyes. For the first time since capture, sleep comes without nightmares. Yet in the office's compound across the wire, Lieutenant Hans von Luck, captured earlier in Tunisia, now senior among the camp's Africa Corps prisoners, writes in his journal by lamplight. "They feed us better than we fed our own men in the desert. They let us play games we once mocked as decadent. And slowly, dangerously, we begin to see them not as enemies, but as men who simply won. What does that make us?" He sets the pen down, listens to the wind, and wonders if the real war, the one inside, is only beginning. Spring thaws medicine hat in fits and starts, mud sucking at boots one day, fresh green shoots piercing the earth the next. By April 1945, the hockey rink melts into slush, and the baseball diamond revives like an old friend. Diamond dust clings to the air as men in POW denim take batting practice, the crack of ash wood on horsehide echoing across the compound. Hans Muller, his prosthetic now worn smooth from use, stands at first base during a pickup game. His swing is awkward, a one-legged pivot that sends the ball dribbling toward shortstop, but the outfielders cheer anyway. "Good eye, Hans." Next one's a homer. Fritz, wiry and quick, patrols center field like he once patrolled Normandy hedgerows. He has grown an inch, it seems, on Canadian rations, steaks. Twice a week, fresh vegetables from the camp garden that prisoners till voluntarily. No more hollow cheeks. No more scavenging for scraps. The league schedule is posted on the mess hall bulletin board. 8 teams, round-robin play, with a championship trophy carved from pine by the camp's woodworking shop. Guards referee, impartial and fair, blowing whistles on close calls without favoritism. You can almost hear the shift in the men's voices, less clipped, less guarded. Over lunch of roast beef sandwiches and potato salad, conversations drift from tactics to dreams. Ernst Zimmermann, soil under his nails from morning garden duty, sketches farm layouts on napkin scraps. This week they grow here, golden waves as far as the eye. No shell craters, no mines, He has enrolled in an agricultural correspondence course offered through the camp, books arriving by mail from the University of Saskatchewan. Hans nods, flipping through his own English textbook. If the Reich falls, and it will, what then? Back to rubble. News filters in slowly, controlled but uncensored. Radios in the recreation hall tuned to CBC broadcasts, Allied advances, German retreats. No one cheers outright, but the silence grows heavier. One evening in May, after a double-header where, Panzer, Edges, Luftwaffe, 5-4, a group gathers around the set. The announcer's voice crackles. Berlin has fallen. Adolf Hitler is dead. A stunned hush. Fritz, bat still in hand, drops it with a thud. Eyes meet, then dart away. Some men weep quietly, others stare at the floor, fists clenched. Lieutenant Hans von Luck, present as a spectator, stands rigid in the back. His journal entry that night: the Führer gone. The dream shattered, and here we sit, well-fed and safe, while home burns. The Canadians handle it with quiet efficiency. Extra guards that night, but no lockdowns. No reprisals. Instead, chaplains, German-speaking ones from the YMCA, circulate, offering counsel. It's over for you lads, one says softly to a cluster including Hans. Time to think of peace. Hans feels a strange relief wash over him, mixed with guilt. He has played baseball while comrades died, eaten steak while families starved. Bonds deepen across the wire. Private Levesque invites a small group, including Fritz, to a fishing trip on the nearby South Saskatchewan River, under guard, of course, but with rods and bait provided. They catch walleye, fry them over a campfire. Levesque shares stories of his Acadian roots, the sea he misses. Fritz, hesitant at first, admits his fear of U-boats during the Atlantic crossing. Laughter follows, nervous, then real. You sank my uncle's ship off Halifax, Levesque says with a grin. But today, we fish. Fritz returns to barracks with a stringer of fish and something intangible, a crack in the wall of enmity. Work programs expand. Prisoners sign up for lumber mills or farms outside the wire, paid in scrip redeemable at the canteen for cigarettes, chocolate, even radios. Hans joins a crew building irrigation ditches on a nearby ranch. The farmer, a grizzled veteran of the Great War, works alongside them, sharing thermoses of coffee. You boys fought hard, he says one afternoon, wiping sweat. But war's war. Now help me make this land grow. Hans digs, the earth yielding easily compared to frozen Russian soil. For the first time, he feels useful, not as a soldier, but as a man. In the office's mess, von Luck organizes discussion groups. Not Nazi ideology, that's forbidden, but philosophy, history. Books on democracy arrive, debated late into the night. They treat us as equals, von Luck says to his peers, voice low. No torture, no starvation. Why? A captain from the Eastern Front snorts. Propaganda, to make us traitors. But doubt creeps in. Escape attempts dwindle to none. Why? Run from hot showers, libraries, 3 squares a day. Personal transformations bloom. Ernst proposes marriage by letter to a pen pal, a Canadian nurse who visited the camp clinic. She accepts. Fritz, once defiant, requests vocational training in mechanics. For after, he tells Hans. Whatever after is. Summer heat bakes the prairies, turning the baseball field to dust. Championship game. Africa Corps versus Normandy survivors. Von Luck pitches for the Corps, slow curves that baffle batters. Hans, at first, fields a grounder cleanly, throws to second for the out. The crowd, prisoners and guards mingled, roars. Final score, 7-6, Corps win. Handshakes all around. McTavish slaps Hans on the back. Good game, old man. That night, under a sky ablaze with stars, Hans sits on the barracks steps, smoking a lucky strike from the canteen. The war is over in Europe, Japan teeters. Repatriation looms. But rumors swirl. Some prisoners petitioning to stay, to immigrate. Ernst has already filed papers. Fritz talks of Toronto factories. Hans exhales smoke, watches it curl upward. They came as enemies, expecting hell. Now they play games, share meals, dream of futures here. But as VE Day celebrations echo faintly from the guard quarters, cheers, fireworks, what of the ghosts left behind? The families, the ruins. Von Luck approaches in the dark, journal tucked under arm. Hans, he says quietly. I've decided, I'm applying to remain. Hans stubs out his cigarette, heart pounding. And you? The question hangs in spoken. August 1945 brings sweltering heat to the Alberta prairies, the sun baking the baseball diamond into cracked clay. Dust devils whirl across the outfield as the final league games wind down, bats cracking with less fervor now that peace treaties dominate the radio broadcasts. Hiroshima, Nagasaki, surrender. The words hang in the air like smoke from a dying fire. Hans Muller sits on the bleachers, rough-hewn planks worn smooth by months of spectators, watching Fritz chase a fly ball. The boy leaps, glove outstretched, snagging it cleanly. Cheers erupt, but subdued. Victory for one team means little when the world has realigned. Repatriation orders arrive like thunderclaps. Trains are scheduled, ships booked for the long haul back to Europe, a continent scarred, divided, hungry. The mess hall bulletin board fills with notices, medical exams, paperwork, departure dates staggered by rank and origin. Hans reads them over coffee that morning, the brew still hot and plentiful, but tasting bitter now. Ernst Zimmermann stands beside him, arms crossed, his agricultural books packed in a crate labeled, Personal Effects, Approved. I'm staying, Ernst says flatly. Papers came through, marrying Marie next month. Farm in Manitoba needs hands. Hans nods, envy twisting in his gut. Not for the land, but for the certainty. The camp buzzes with decisions. Group meetings form spontaneously, in barracks, on the rink now converted to a soccer pitch, even in the library amid stacks of Goethe and Hemingway. Lieutenant Hans von Luck chairs many, his voice steady but eyes shadowed. Gentlemen, the war is over. We lost. But here, we have seen what humanity can be. Geneva wasn't just paper, it was practice. Murmurs ripple. A sergeant from the Waffen-SS, hard-eyed and tattooed, slams a fist on the table. Traitors. The fatherland needs rebuilding. We go home. But others waver. Petitions circulate. Requests for asylum, immigration forms stamped by Canadian officials. By week's end, over 200 signatures, men like Fritz, who has apprenticed in the motor pool, learning to fix jeeps and tractors. Toronto, he tells Hans one evening, oil under his nails. Factories booming, no more marches, no more salutes. Hans walks the compound perimeter that night, crutch, tapping softly on gravel paths lined with wildflowers, poppies, ironically, blooming red against the wire. The guards wave casually from towers, rifles slung, more like neighbors than sentinels. He remembers the propaganda reels. Skeletal prisoners in Allied camps, lies fed to fuel the fight. Reality. Spacious barracks, 2,500 calories a day, medical care that saved limbs and lives. Recreational libraries with 10,000 volumes. Organized sports that mended bodies and minds. Even theaters, orchestras formed from prisoner musicians playing Bach under electric lights. The contrast stings. Axis camps he knew of. Dachau's horrors whispered in the ranks, Soviet gulags where comrades vanished. Here, no forced labor beyond upkeep. Voluntary work paid wages. Education encouraged. A profound shift, von Luck had called it. From suspicion to admiration, personal stories surface in farewell gatherings. Wilhelm Rand, the U-boat survivor, shares a beer with McTavish, the same guard who taught him hockey. You could have hated us, Wilhelm says, voice thick. McTavish shrugs. Lost a brother at Dieppe. But you're not him. War's done. They clink bottles. Laughter follows, laced with regret. Ernst hosts a small party in Barrack 7. Homemade strudel from canteen flour, coffee spiked with contraband whiskey smuggled by a sympathetic cook. To new beginnings, he toasts. Hans raises his mug, but his thoughts drift east, to Cologne's ruins, his sister's letters describing bread lines and occupation zones. Von Luck pulls Hans aside later, under the vast prairie sky where stars wheel unchecked. I've filed to stay, teaching history at a college in Ottawa. They need voices like ours, to explain, not excuse. Hans meets his gaze. And me, the Ruhr's calling, but von Luck clasps his shoulder. Choice is the luxury we earned here. Not chains, but options. Departures begin in September. Trains rumble south to ports, loaded with men in civilian clothes issued by the camp, suits, shirts, ties that feel foreign after years in uniform. Goodbyes are brisk, handshakes firm. Fritz boards first, duffel over shoulder, a mechanic's certificate in his pocket. Right me, Hans. Toronto's got room for one more. Hans nods, throat tight. Ernst waves from the platform, Marie at his side, a slight woman with kind eyes, her nurse's pin glinting. Hans's turn comes last. October chill returns, leaves turning gold as he limps aboard. The prosthetic fits perfectly now, thanks to the workshop. In his bag, English books, a baseball glove, letters from home. As the train pulls away, he presses his face to the window. The camp recedes, Barracks, diamond, wire fading into horizon. Guards salute lazily. No malice. Just duty done. Months later, in a rebuilt Cologne flat, Hans sips weak tea, rationing lingers. His sister asks about Canada. He tells her. Hot showers that washed away more than dirt, games that rebuilt spirits, kindness that cracked propaganda's shell. They treated us as men, he says. Not monsters. She listens, wide-eyed. Years pass. Some Ritternees write books, like von Luck's memoirs praising Allied humanity. Others immigrate back. Over 6,000 German POWs eventually settle in Canada, starting families, farms, businesses. Ernst's wheat fields thrive. Fritz's garage in Toronto hums with engines. The camp's close, bulldozed into history. But the legacy endures, a testament to Geneva's power, turning enemies into reluctant friends. Boosting morale, preventing escapes, fostering peace. In the frozen expanses, humanity won a quiet victory. Hans, older now, watches his grandchildren play baseball in a park. The crack of the bat echoes. He smiles. What if more had seen it? The world might have healed faster.